show for all your latest UFC news and rumors. It's Brian Coyle. It's Sean Stanley. It's the TFM Live podcast. And it's now.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com. I am Brian Coyle. He is Sean Stanley. And Sean, we've been away technically 2 weeks, but it's actually 1 week because we have a lost episode out there. It's just half of it's not there.
Yeah,
for the listeners.
Technology is not being our good friends. Let's just say that.
Yeah. When you try to record two voices and you don't realize the other voice is supposed to record, I'm not going to name any names, but me, it's just, wires get crossed, things happen. We had a very interesting chat on a Saturday morning for about an hour, which was great. One of our best podcasts, I believe. But
I agree. 100%.
Nobody will ever be privy to it.
And nobody
will ever be.
It'll just be me and you, the long lost episode.
The long lost episode. But we are both recording, we think, this time around. So glad to be back. Glad to be back on the air with you. And it's a weird week. It's not a week filled with like crazy news or anything like that. But it's a week where I walked in Tuesday morning. I walked into my other job at CBS Sports Network and, get off the train. I'm on the train for an hour and a half, try not to use data on my phone. So I'm not really looking at Twitter. I walk in, sit down on my computer, open up Twitter. The first thing I see is CM Punk's UFC debut delayed again. And I'm thinking to myself, what happened now? Because as much as I love Punk from his wrestling days, an incredible performer, they signed him in December of 2014. You were waiting, when is he going to fight? Okay, he's not going to fight. He wants to take a year to train. Yeah, I get that. Okay, he's going to fight soon. Shoulder surgery in October. It's been pushed back. He's finally got an opponent in Mickey Gall set to fight at UFC 199 or UFC 200.
Yes.
All right, this is cool. Awesome. This is real. He got in. Mickey Gall defeated Michael Jackson at the formerly known UFC 196 turned UFC Fight Night 82, involving Wonderboy Thompson and Johnny Hendricks in the main event. And we're like, oh, they're coming in. It's here. They kind of did a stare down, but not really. Punk seemed a little bit not nervous, but a little weird. And we kind of figured out why later on. Because this was first reported by MMAfighting.com, who spoke exclusively to Punk. We have all the details as well at thefullmountmma.com. But CM Punk underwent back surgery on Wednesday due to a herniated disc. Now, when I think the herniated disc and CM Punk, what's the first thing that comes to mind in your eyes?
No, wrestling.
Yeah,
the bumps he took in wrestling on your back.
Yeah, the first thing you do is take a back bump. And then the second, and third, and fourth, and 100th thing you do when you start wrestling
and you take millions and millions over your time.
Yes. So Punk undergoes surgery for a herniated disc. And he said, my back has always bugged me. Figure out it was just wrestling. Bleep. Turns out it was. It got bad enough to a point where I couldn't do anything the week before. I went to train with the New Jersey Devils. That was a big thing. The UFC's been kind of training with random sports franchises just for a week for, good PR. And it's a cool little thing. Did it with the Detroit Pistons a couple months ago.
Yeah, a little cross-branding.
Devils left. Yeah, of course. Great idea. He said, one day I could manage, the next day I couldn't. I was in agony for almost a month. Chiropractor, acupuncture, massage, cryotherapy, nothing worked. And we read this, and his recovery time was 4 to 6 weeks. I'm thinking reading this, all right, sure, you think it's 4 to 6 weeks. My dad had really bad back problems, when I was growing up. When I was young, and he didn't really talk to me about it until I got a little bit older, but backs don't heal well.
No.
And he explained it was it's hard to get out of bed in the morning. You're sore all day. You can't move. You feel immobilized sometimes. It's incredibly, incredibly painful. And to go in, you're 37 years old, a herniated disc. I'm thinking we're never going to see Punk, ever. is that a genuine concern that you had when you saw this report?
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, it's 37 years old, and then also you're in a sport to where you warm up, you cool off, depending on how the match is. I mean, you're gonna have to be very, as you were saying, it hurts when you get out of bed, so imagine getting warmed up and then all of a sudden you don't warm up properly, or your coaches get you warming up too quick. Now your back starts, you start tensing up, cooling down a little bit. That back will, freeze up on you in the middle of a fight. That's not a good thing. And I mean, I know he says it's 4 to 6 weeks, and I know Miguel says, the fight's still a go. It's just going to get delayed a little bit. But I would give myself some concern. He's 37 years old, as you said, and it's not something that you're just going to bounce back from.
Yeah, I mean, you're referencing Mickey Gall's tweet. He said, guys, it's all good. The fight's still on. Minor surgery. I wish CM Punk a healthy, speedy recovery. Of course Mickey Gall does. It's his ticket into the UFC. It's an awesome paycheck. He said he wants him at 100%. Check that, #200. Which goes to, so maybe it was scheduled for 199. Maybe they're moving the Punk fight to 200 if he recovers in time. And there's like two sides. There's the normal side that we're thinking of here. It's like he's 37, it's back surgery, it's never good. Supposedly Cain Velasquez got a very similar type surgery when he just underwent, when him and Verdum both bowed out of the UFC 196 former main event, which worried me a lot. But then I thought about it, and I can talk from personal experience here. One of my first jobs, I worked for this company called Nuvasive, which had actually sponsored the UFC fighter Nate Quarry for a while, among other athletes. Like I think Bill Walton was one of their guys or whatever. And they had, what the company sold was minimally invasive surgeries where you're like in the hospital, but then you're out within a day to 3 days instead of being in the hospital for weeks and weeks. And the more I thought about it, if that's the type of surgery that Punk is going to get, I don't know if he's going to be able to fight per se, but it's not completely out of the ordinary that Punk would be able to resume active training 6 weeks from now. Like at least training. So it kind of made me feel better about it. But again, he's 37 years old. Like he's got to, like, this is an incredibly small window for him. It's tough.
Yeah, not only that, but also when you say, you're training with this back injury. I mean, yeah, surgery's supposed to heal it and things like that. But I mean, how easy is it, especially in a sport like MMA where your body's kind of contorting in different directions? How easy will that be? I mean, I don't know, man. I hope it's all fine and dandy and this and that. But again, the being 37 years old, a back injury, I mean, you look at it and you go, okay, knee injury. Yeah, I could probably see him. I mean, it'd probably be a longer injury, but he could probably bounce back from that. But a back injury, man, if you get slammed down on there and your back tightens up or anything like that, you're right there. The match is over.
Yeah, it really is, and it has to be a worry. Like people like walking. If you walk down the stairs, funny, and you just slip a disc, or like you could be going about your daily basis, or if you lift wrong, like lifting in college, or anybody like working out. Like I've done things where I've lifted a weight the wrong way, not because I was lifting a lot of weight, but your form was off, or you weren't paying attention, or you did something and something moves. You're out of commission. And this is why, this is so dangerous. And when it comes to Cain Velasquez as well, a guy who had so much potential, who's been a former UFC champion, even him, I'm worried about his future. And he was a guy with so much. We're talking about the guy who beat Brock Lesnar and Velasquez. And we don't know if he's ever going to come back to be the same. And then you look at somebody like Punk, who's never professionally fought before. And I mean, he opened up at a plus 300 underdog against Gall when the odds were released, once the fight was official. And I'd only expect that eventually to climb, and for him to be more and more of an underdog against a guy in Gall who we don't know nearly anything about besides what we've seen him against Michael Jackson, who was a former MMA journalist who had some amateur fights or semi-professional fights, you want to call them, under his belt, but we don't know what kind of fighter this kid is. He could be a great prospect. He could be a scrub. We don't know. And we don't know what Punk is. We don't know. I mean, he's trained with Showtime Pettis and Ben Askren at Duke Rufus Sport in Milwaukee, but we don't know. And this is just another thing to kind of be another setback and it's just really disappointing.
Yeah, no, it is. And we're going to have to see. And like with Mickey Gall, I mean, he has looked impressive against lesser known, as you said, talents. And we don't know what you're going to get with CM Punk. And now that question's probably even further unanswerable right now than it was before when we had no idea if he could fight.
Yeah, we really don't. And we'll see. Like, it's weird having, like, Punk's been in the UFC for almost a year and a quarter now.
Yeah, or closer to a year and a half, hasn't it?
Almost a year and a half. By the time he fights, it will definitely at least be a year and a half.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. By the time he fights, it'd been a year and a half. So, yeah, so you're probably right, about a year and a quarter right now.
So, what are we going to get out of him? I hope it's something. Because if not, I mean, this was another opportunity that's passed both him and the UFC by. We didn't get to, I mean, obviously we talked about it a lot last week on the podcast. We lost together forever. But I did want to mention a couple things from last week that we can kind of go over. Cowboy versus Cowboy is now the main event for UFC Pittsburgh after, Tim Means failed a USADA drug test.
Yep. Yeah,
for,
another one. Now, these guys aren't going to learn.
Yeah, and he said it was something that wasn't on the label, and it was,
But see, isn't it as easy as going to somebody? I think you've said it on this podcast before. You can just take it to your trainers and be like, "Can I take this? Yes or no?"
Pretty much.
And they're going to tell you. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand anymore. It's, it wasn't on the label. It wasn't this. Well, before you put anything in your body, go find out if you're allowed to have it.
Yeah, and with Tim Means out, and I found this very interesting. I mean, it's great for the sport that they're testing so much because you're going to get a clean sport. And I read something, I think it was from Jeremy Botter of Bleacher Report. Where, this is great if it's true. I think he talked to USADA, and USADA's policy is that fighters are responsible for what goes into their own bodies, even if it's tainted. Mm-hmm. So if it's labeled incorrectly and you take the thing, too bad. Like, you got to know what you're putting into. And even if you get a tainted supplement somehow, which I don't know how that would happen, but you can't use that excuse. You're responsible for what goes into your own body, which is great.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. I mean, it's just you have to know. I mean, you can sit here and say, "Oh, somebody put something in my drink," or "I took a supplement," but you were ultimately putting whatever it was that however they slipped the drink to you, or they put it in your whatever, you ultimately
pre-workout or whatever.
Yeah, you were going to take the stuff anyway. So it's not like, I mean, look, you can say all you want, and you've said it on here many a times that, look, it's as easy as calling this number and saying, "Hey, I'm going to take this over-the-counter supplement. Is there anything on there?" Go to a trainer. You got people there that's guiding your career that if you went and said, "Hey, I want to take this. Can I do it?" They're going to find the answer out for you.
Yeah. I mean, and USADA's stance is healthy fighters don't need to take supplements.
Let me ask you a question real quick too, though. But do you think a clean sport is going to equal a better sport? I
don't know if the better is the word. I think a clean sport will make it a more level playing field.
Okay.
I don't know if it will make it better. I mean, when you go to other sports, when you look at the NFL, there's no HGH test in the National Football League. There's no bona fide will test positive, will come up all the time HGH test in the National Football League. I mean, because it hasn't been collectively bargained by either side, the NFL or the NFL Players Association, and it's being used, I mean, as a bargaining chip by that union. Because if the NFL wants to impose an 18-game season and they want, we want these clean blood tests too, then the Players Association is going to be like, no. When it came to Major League Baseball, And does that impact the NFL's performance or not? That's up for your own debate.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at baseball, chicks dig the long ball. The best, most popular time for baseball was when everybody was juicing.
Yeah.
Post-strike, home run king, Barry Bonds. Now baseball, I mean, is so much more cleaned up than it used to be. And is baseball better? Again, something up for debate. In the NBA, they don't test for HGH. How many players are on HGH? This is a thing where unless you have the USADA testing, it's technically something that's usually collectively bargained, and it's not. And if we started to see a decline in performance, like we saw in baseball, in these other sports, as well as you'll start to see possibly in the UFC, I think it could have an impact on the level of performance in these sports, bar none. Will it make it a more level playing field? Absolutely. Will the sport suffer, like optically, like from the outside looking in? No. Will it suffer from like these casual fans who watch like, oh, that dude got knocked out or he got messed up? Like, will we have less of that? Possibly, but if everyone kind of goes down the same level, you expect I think the more technical aspect of the sport will grow, and you have to be smarter. You have to be more cunning. You have to be like you won't have as much power, so you got to do certain things. I think the sport will change, and I think for the better, but it won't be as much of the highlight reel sport that it is. But it's at its core, mixed martial arts, at least in the UFC, from an appeal standpoint, is one dude against another dude or one girl against another girl knocking each other out. That's what people pay money to see.
No, I agree 100% on that.
That's a very intriguing question that you posed, though, whether the performance of the sport will suffer or not. Regardless, that's a good aside on that.
I mean, I just think it's weird. You know, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, however you want to do it, but I mean, like, look, these guys are great, tremendous athletes. They're in great shape. They're able to recover from injuries quicker than what a normal injury would probably be to me, and I understand that. But how some of these guys can fight in less than 3 months after some of the beatings that they take and be ready to go and fight at a high level, you just have to look at it. I mean, maybe it's just a marvel. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I know they train hard, and I'm not taking anything away from them. But I just to be able to do all that, it's just, I mean, you can't tell me they're not going in ill prepared. They're still putting their bodies through another training camp. I mean, we saw it earlier with Northcutt. I mean, I know he didn't take much damage, but 3 fights in 3 months.
I mean, and it's amazing because a lot of these fighters,
and he is 19 years old now, so I mean,
they don't come in healthy. A lot of these guys have injuries when they still fight because of the payday.
Yeah.
We've seen it with every fighter almost. I mean, you mentioned Northcutt, he had strep throat.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor had a partially torn ACL supposedly against Chad Mendes. Mendes took the fight on 18 days' notice and may have hurt himself in training. People have broken their hands or broken stuff before fights. I mean, people break their hands with the first punch. Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Valerie Letourneau, she broke her hand like in the second round, and then won 5 rounds that fight. Like this is like Dominic Cruz's heel. We talk like he literally tore his heel up after coming in with a possible injury. So these guys are these people are superhuman athletes, and then on top of that, before the sport was as clean as it is now, which I think is great, you had superhuman athletes using superhuman substances. I'd take the superhuman athletes over the superhuman substances any day, because that's when you see the heart of the sport, rather than everyone being juiced up and all these monster fighters and guys who are in the long run are not going to be healthy.
No, I agree with that.
I'd rather see these fighters, like if we don't see Lawler, McDonald, like I always go back to that fight because that fight took years off those guys.
Yeah, easily.
But if they were both on some crazy substance that we find out later on could cause major health problems, it's even worse. So, I mean, it's a great conversation to have. If somebody bigger than Means gets popped, I'm sure we'll have it again.
Yeah.
I mean, but Means was headlining a fight card here.
Yeah, I mean, it's right coming up soon, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be next Sunday night, February 21st. Now we have, circling back to where we started this conversation, Donald Cowboy Cerrone against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. And we made the joke on last week's podcast, let's hope the Octagon is big enough for the two of them. So it's
they should put the saloon doors on the Octagon for the entrance. They should have the saloon doors and have them go through the saloon to get into the Octagon.
So when does the tumbleweed roll in? Right before the first round?
Yeah. Like instead of having a little one on the tumbleweed, and like the changing of the round, and have the girl just roll the tumbleweed through and pick it up and walk around.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fun fight. I think Cowboy has to win because you're looking at a guy who got completely owned by Rafael dos Anjos. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, it was embarrassing for a proud fighter like Cowboy Cerrone. It was really bad. And when I see Rafael dos Anjos do that to Cowboy Cerrone, I shiver at what he could possibly do to Conor McGregor, though Conor McGregor could prove me wrong. And as that fight, which is literally less than a month away?
Yeah, less than a month away.
Which is crazy.
And I still haven't got the 196 right. Every time I write, I still write 197.
I know it's crazy, but that's a fun fight card in Pittsburgh. I think you got Derek Brunson on that card as well, and then John Lineker against Cody Garbrandt, which would be a fun fight. We'll talk about that next week more in depth, but just to kind of get on the Cowboy versus Cowboy thing, it's a big fight for Cerrone.
Definitely got a lot of sorry, I lost track of the word I'm looking for. Repercussions for Cerrone in this fight, sure. Especially if he drops another goose egg.
Yeah, and we talked about PEDs for the last 10 minutes or so. Anderson Silva fights the week after in his return to the Octagon after his suspension against Michael Bisping. And Bisping's Twitter account has been full of some tremendous jokes about Anderson Silva and steroid use, which, I mean, is not safe for saying on this podcast.
It's not PG-13?
Yeah, no, I mean, it could be PG-13, but it's better off going on Twitter. But that, I mean, we'll talk about that because that is a hell of a fight. One that, did we ever think we were ever going to see? Because Bisping was always kind of hovering like the 4 through 8 rankings in middleweight. And now Anderson Silva, obviously, after getting knocked out by Weidman and then beating Diaz, but not, having that win because of the positive drug test, which he attributed to male enhancement pills, which I never thought I would use that term when I was talking about sports ever, but sometimes you see a story and you just kind of turn your head to the side a little bit and go, interesting. He went with that excuse.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't you think they're trying anything though? They're thinking, oh, well, if I do this and I tell them I'm doing this, maybe I can get away with it.
I mean, he got popped. Anyway,
no, yeah, I mean, it didn't work, but I guess they're trying anything in a way. I guess it's like,
yeah, and I'm with you because I mean, regardless, USADA is gonna. If you fail, you fail, and it doesn't matter if you take steroids or you take Viagra. Apparently, if that's what Anderson Silva's excuse was, you're gonna fail a drug test, so you have to pay attention to what's on the banned substances list and not take them.
And if you're in Nevada, make sure you don't do the wacky tobacco because that's worse than doing PEDs.
Yeah, that too. Apparently, that's a problem for a lot of people. Completely shifting gears here because there's not a lot of breaking news. But
well, I was going to ask you just because I was waiting because I just saw a story come across on social media about Kevin Randleman. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
MMA junkie Brent Brookhouse. Apparently, he passed away at the age of 44.
Oh man!
And apparently, it was due to complications with pneumonia, and he suffered heart failure, according to Jeremy Botter.
That's a shame.
I'm guessing it just happened. It was, this article was at 10:50 p.m. as we're doing this I have 11:09 Eastern.
UFC and Sherdog has it. Everyone's got it. UFC and Pride Fighting Championships veteran Kevin Randleman has died at the age 44. Wow, that one's tough. This kind of goes through what Randleman was. 2-time NCAA. I'm taking this from Sherdog. National champion wrestler at Ohio State. Started his MMA career in '96. He fought at UFC 19 in his first fight against Maurice Smith. 2 bouts later, he became the heavyweight champion of the UFC by beating Pete Williams at UFC 23. He defended the belt once before losing it to Randy Couture at 28. He fought in Pride for a little while, but that just sucks. Anytime you lose one of, and a lot of people in the, I'm already seeing an outpouring on Twitter about it.
Yeah,
are taking it really, really hard. So our condolences out to his family and anybody who's close to him. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on to some of the best of stuff this week on TFM Live, the official podcast for FullMountMMA.com.
For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to the FullMountMMA.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley.
Welcome back, everybody, to the FullMountMMA.com's official podcast, TFM Live. Sean, the story I wanted to get to kind of came out today through Conor McGregor's coach, John Kavanagh. And he said, it wouldn't surprise me if Conor McGregor's next fight is for the welterweight title. Now, I'm always of the opinion, don't count your chickens before they hatch here, but Conor McGregor's got to win the lightweight title before he gets to welterweight. Correct? At this point?
Yeah, it's kind of, you just spring out and sprint instead of trying to crawl before you walk and everything else here.
He's got to defeat the guy who he calls a bum, Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
In Rafael dos Anjos. And, I think that one's going to be hard enough. He wants Robbie Lawler after that. If he gets through that, and he wants him at 200, which, not a long, it's like an immediate kind of challenge.
So if I'm understanding this right, he'll be heavyweight champion by the beginning of next year.
That's the way it works. I think if he keeps winning, this is insane. Like, dude, 2 belts is enough. And there are people saying, I've seen reporters well sourced, great reporters like Jeremy Botto we mentioned from Bleacher Report. He tweeted out, "I don't think Conor McGregor fights again at 145," which could be a real thing. And when I hear moves like this, and if he beats Rafael dos Anjos, Frankie Edgar still wants a title shot. Does Frankie Edgar fight him? But is it at 145? Is it at 155? It's and I'm a Conor McGregor guy. This is, don't talk until you beat dos Anjos, because this is a real freaking fight. I mean, Aldo was too, until he knocked him out in 13 seconds. But this is crazy. I mean, I get that this whole camp is about getting better technically, and you don't have to worry about dropping as much weight, because Conor can just kind of hover around at what he normally does, and it's not even worry about it. Yeah, he had the great quote, "I'm eating steak for breakfast, steak for lunch, and steak for dinner." This is really, really interesting, and especially if he does beat dos Anjos. Is he going to jump back to 145 ever again? That's the real question coming out of this.
It's kind of easy, though, to answer, isn't it? Because why?
What would be the point?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're already telling you their plans is they're just going to go and start collecting titles like they're just, they If UFC lets him, he'll probably try to go all the way up to heavyweight.
There's only one thing better than gold, Sean. More gold.
Yeah, and what would be great is if John Jones is the heavyweight champion when he gets there.
Yeah, like just McGregor just bulks up.
Look at me, I got him going all the way to heavyweight. There's a lot of people standing in the way before that.
See, I don't think it makes it past 155.
I don't either. And then if he loses, does he go back to 145?
He has to.
Yeah, I mean, I think so because it just proves you can't make it there.
Yeah, he's got to go to the back of the line at 155 if he loses. And speaking of other fighters at 155, Eddie Alvarez, who gained a big win, ugly win over Anthony Showtime Pettis back in January, said something to Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, which I found intriguing, saying that there's a simple way to win against Conor McGregor. He said, for me, it's simple for RDA to win. He just needs to implement a ground attack. If he doesn't, I honestly feel like he can get knocked out, just like all the other guys Conor was able to knock out. But he can't allow it to be mostly of a striking kind of game, and he went on to say, the simple way to win against this guy, nobody seems to be doing it. It's really frustrating to watch. And he's basically saying, in context there, I'm going to make it ugly. And so Conor can't hit me with those stone hands.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense. It's great. And I say this with a caveat. It's great in theory. What did we watch in Newark, New Jersey a couple weeks ago with Anthony Rumble Johnson and Ryan Bader, a wrestler and a striker? What happened? Bader shot for the takedown, completely missed.
Yeah, but that was a terrible. I think I could have stuffed that.
I know
he shot from the corner. I mean, my thing is this. I think, I agree with you what you're saying. I mean, it only takes a striker. All he's got to do is land that one punch, and it's done. But I mean, look what he does. He talks people out of their game. How many times do you see Aldo just charge like a bull and eat a punch? And that's what he does. He talks you out of your game to where you try to I'm going to shut him up right now, and then he nails you with his game.
Yeah, and it's the point. Literally, he took the words right out of my mouth. What was the kind of deal with Rumble Johnson and Bader too? Mm-hmm. Bader's an All-American wrestler, like you said. You could have stuffed that takedown. Bader was nervous because you're looking at death at the other side of the octagon in Rumble Johnson, the most fearsome striker in the UFC, period. And a guy, I legitimately think this. I mean, if John Jones goes out and railroads Cormier, I might walk back on it a little bit. But I think Rumble can beat anybody because of how devastating he is. And when you, that intimidation factor from him is just that intimidation factor. When you look at McGregor, you hit the nail right on the head. He's a guy who just talks so much BS. You get so mad. And if you can't tune it out, you're going to just be like, oh, I want to punch this dude in the face. I know I should wrestle him, but here, I can get the shot in real quick. No, you can't. That's what happened with Jose Aldo. I've never seen Aldo so thrown off. I know he always looks down in his entrance, but when you evaluate, when the body language doctor comes in and looks at that, it is the worst thing I've ever seen. You go watch back Aldo in that entrance, and just he's so yoked up. He's completely messed up before the fight. Yeah. And if Conor can do that against RDA, which I don't know if he will or not, because RDA hasn't been biting as much with the stuff. He's become not immune to it, but Conor has talked so much where he's like, I'm just not going to be able to talk with this guy anymore. So I'm just going to not say anything. And
sometimes that's probably the best thing to do. Just go in there and do your thing. And so many people try to shut him up because he talks so much. I mean, like you said, Aldo, he normally does this thing where he keeps his head down. The way he came charging out, and he was looking to knock his head off, and he got caught. I mean, he landed one, but he got caught too.
Yeah, and I mean, you can compare Conor. I mean, everyone's made this. It's like if you have a dog. And that dog just keeps barking and barking and barking and barking and barking for your attention. And you're just like, and you keep trying to play with it, and you just, you get it more amped up and amped up and amped up. But if you just, okay, you're barking, it's okay, I'm going to ignore it. Eventually the dog will be like, okay, I'm going to stop barking now and just come chill out. Like if you amp up, if you poke the bear, like, and you feed into this, you're going to get sucked in by this tornado. Mm-hmm. You're just going to get caught by it. And Alvarez is right. Can you do it? That's the better question.
Yeah, it's about what we say all the time. You got to execute the game plan. You can have the best game plan in the world, but you got to go out there and execute it.
And it's like when you looked at the Carolina Panthers in the Super Bowl, they had a game plan. It went out the window, and they didn't execute anything because they looked like they were caught in a box. Mm-hmm. And intimidated the hell out of them, and they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and the problem is that they couldn't tap out and end the game in 13 seconds.
No, they couldn't. And the Broncos and players from the Broncos said after the first time we got to Cam, it was over. We knew, like, we could see it in his eyes. And when McGregor or Rumble or any of these guys see that break, when you see someone mentally break and you can go in for the kill. When Holly Holm saw Ronda Rousey break for the first time in that fight, where it's like, oh, wow, I just got hit by a freaking brick wall. Like, oh, like then you go in for it and it's over. And it's the key to any stoppage, pretty much, in the UFC. Once you hit that point, you have to pounce. And that will be your time to go in for the kill. And the difference between guys who go in for the kill and guys who don't is gold belt around their waist when it comes down to it.
No, 100%.
And a guy who wants to eventually have gold belt around his waist would be Aljamain Sterling, the undefeated 12-0 bantamweight. And Sterling is a very interesting case. We talked about it last week, but unfortunately no one heard it, that Benson Henderson went to Bellator, which was, surprising. We're talking about a former UFC lightweight champion in Bendo. But he left to go to Bellator for more upfront money and the ability to have sponsors on all of his stuff. And he'll do well for himself in Bellator. Are a bunch of people going to watch? I don't know. But it's a good spot. I mean, the talent pool is obviously different. It's not some of their guys. It's not like the worst thing in the world. It's not like Fedor with Rizin, but obviously there's a drop off between the UFC and Bellator. But money wise, I mean, Bendo wouldn't be competing for any championships in the UFC at this moment in time. So if he wanted that, that's fine. Sterling, on the other hand, is right going into his prime. He's the 5th ranked bantamweight. He's 12-0. He's got a really great personality. I've seen him call fights before for Cage Fury fighting promotions. Smart guy, good personality. We saw him. He beat Johnny Eduardo in the UFC Fight Night on that Sage and Page card. He's beaten Takeya Mizugaki. He's only had 4 fights in the UFC, but he's a budding prospect. And UFC, like, watching because he's a free agent right now, UFC kind of went, like, oh, go find out what your value is and get back to us. Mm-hmm. Which I think could be a mistake, because I'm, like, this is a guy, we always look for the next big thing, right?
Yep. Always.
Even with the guys with the belt around their waist, we're always looking for these new stars that the UFC will create. And they push guys with, for lack of a better word, Sage Northcutt was the 3 fights in 3 months, which is absolutely insane. But he was a guy that, like, now that can kind of settle in, and they want to create him as a star. Sterling was a guy I always thought that could have that, and it's not because I share the New Jersey, New York connection to this guy, and he fights this same gym as Weidman with Longo. He tweeted out, this is 2 days ago, the announcement news is coming soon. This has been an interesting process. #MMA, #contract decision. And I tweeted basically backing him, saying that it's the announcement before the announcement because we have to have 1 million of those.
Yeah, but can I actually, just by hearing that, it makes me think that he's not going to the UFC.
See, that was my initial impression. However, he's number one. It's gonna be rough for him. He's got to get a new Twitter handle because it's Funkmaster_UFC. And there was somebody had tweeted back at him, "Oh, did you change your name already?" Trying to figure out, if he's leaving or not. And also, this could be a negotiating ploy as well.
No, 100%.
On Twitter. But he's a guy. When I look at him, I'm like, this is somebody the UFC should sign because he's undefeated. He's beaten everybody that you put in front of him already. He's going to ask, like, I saw this going around Twitter, and he was talking about it openly. Sage Northcutt got $40,000 a show and $40,000 for a win, right?
Yep.
That's a lot in this kind of business when we have these Reebok payouts and there's no sponsors and all that. Aljamain Sterling's got more wins than Sage Northcutt. He's undefeated. He's got great personality. He made the argument, why am I not getting paid Sage Northcutt money? Why am I not having those spots in the card? So that's where his attitude is coming from. Now, we'll see if he goes somewhere else and it's the UFC, then we'll have more of an indication that the UFC wants to kind of create their own guys and have their mold of fighter. Like they want to control the push, it seems like, more as a promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that.
It kind of seems like.
But if they do that with him, I mean, how much is like Overeem and those guys going to demand? And then where will it stop for the UFC?
If you're putting Sterling on the undercard in the Thursday Vegas card of that UFC week, he's not going to get that much money. But if you utilize a talent like that and put him as the third fight on a fight night card, or the fourth or fifth fight, like the opening fight on the pay-per-view, or the preliminary card main event, this is how much these guys make. So, the UFC is going to have to make a decision because this sets a precedent if they go that route with Sterling or they go that route, because it's more on the UFC now more than ever to decide what these guys are worth because of the sponsorship money not coming in. Because of the Reebok deal, it's made it harder for the UFC to negotiate.
No, it definitely.
Which is crazy.
But now, as soon as you say that, though, you see what they did with Sage Northcutt. So if they want to negotiate, it's there.
Yeah. It's weird, like how this Reebok deal has it's screwed so many people, and it can end up screwing the UFC.
Yeah, it looks like that's ultimately what may happen.
Yeah, and it was a 7-year deal, which they originally agreed to. I don't know how long that's going to last, but
can they get out of the deal?
I mean, they could always rip it up and change it if they wanted to. It's going to take a lot of goodwill, towards Reebok. Like they would have to. That's a question. It's a great question. The answer is going to occur in a boardroom or that's over our heads.
I mean, I got to think that if they lose another person, I mean, again, I understand some of these guys may not be your name brands, your names and stuff, but as you said, he's a great, up and comer and possibly the next big thing. If they start losing these guys, I think ultimately you might see this happen sooner than later.
Yeah, and hopefully by the time this is out on Friday or Saturday, depending on when this goes up,
should be Friday.
When Sterling should be signed, because that's kind of what the timeline he put. He said 1 to 3 days after February 9th, which another negotiating tactic, but
yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what direction the UFC has decided to go in. When it comes to this stuff. But it's one of those topics where, all right, let's see how this goes. Let's see what they're choosing, because this could have a domino effect on a lot of fighters. And the UFC's been we've praised them for some smart business decisions. And the way the Benson Henderson contract was structured, that they didn't match from Bellator, it was a smart business decision to let Bendo go. Because of the so-called poison pills that were inserted into that contract. But who knows if we'll see what direction the UFC leans towards the rest with Sterling and more upcoming free agents. I mean, hell, Alistair Overeem's a free agent. And that's a guy who the third-ranked heavyweight in a division where everything's all up in arms. So it's all about it. I mean, there's a great line that Jalen Rose always says on ESPN, and he used to on Grantland. It's not what you don't negotiate what you don't get what you value. You don't get your value. You only get what you would have the power to negotiate, like what the leverage that you have. You only get what you have to negotiate. However well you do that contract is what you're going to get, not what you're actually worth. So it's up to these fighters to kind of navigate this new world in a Reebok-style manner, because you could end up with a great spot, or you could end up getting way underpaid, despite the fact that you're in the premier mixed martial arts company in the world. And one thing I wanted to mention before we get out of here, were you able to check out UFC Fight Night 82 with Wonder Boy and Johnny Hendricks?
I watched all the way up until the Hendricks fight, believe it or not.
See, you made the mistake of watching all the way up until, because the best fight of the night was Wonder Boy.
Yeah, I know.
Holy, I mean, of course you saw the highlights after, but damn, Stephen Thompson looked like
legit
a karate master. Like, this is Johnny Hendricks we're talking about. Yeah. This was a guy who said he had his best weight cut ever. He felt great going in. And you made an All-American, possibly one of the best wrestlers in the history of the UFC. You kept your distance, you struck, and you stopped him. Just like that. Complete decimation, complete domination, complete destruction, annihilation, whatever you want to call it. And Thompson threw his hat into the ring at welterweight, and Tyron Woodley's not happy about it. I bet you Carlos Condit's not happy about it, because that's a show-stopping performance.
Definitely an eye-opener. I mean, if you didn't know him before, now you do.
Oh, for sure. I mean, after that sort of thing.
And as you said, Hendricks came in and said he was in the best shape of his life, so it's not like he came in and he was saying, oh, I tore my ACL, I did this, I did that. He beat 110% Johnny Hendricks.
In round one. Which is crazy. The rest of that card, the only thing I would petition the UFC, and nothing personal on this, Jared Rushholt should never be on a main card ever again. Man, that guy is just, like, it's just so, like, I don't care if you can wrestle. It's the most disappointing fighter, like, I've ever seen. And Cowboy, Big Country Roy Nelson, made it as interesting as he could, as only he can. But nothing really to take away from. I mean, Joseph Benavidez beat Zach Makovsky, which in a division where Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, who could go on to just give up fighting altogether and be a Twitch streamer on YouTube, which that story came out. I think he should wait until actually somebody can hang with him in the flyweight division, which he gets Henry Cejudo next on the UFC 197 card with John Jones and Daniel Cormier, obviously headlining. But so Benavidez kind of is a placeholder, and hopefully he gets another shot at Demetrius Johnson. But to me, DJ should go up and fight Dominic Cruz, and we have a super fight to kind of raise the profile of both of these divisions. And Vince St. Preux beat Rafael Cavalcante, who basically did nothing that entire fight. I don't know how it was one judge scored that fight 29-28.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all to take out of what holy shnikes, Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Thompson was the only thing coming out of that event.
And that was supposed to be the pay-per-view before the Super Bowl. That card, which, to me, it's a good thing I didn't think that was in pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It was a good thing.
Well, if you had the heavyweight fight in there, it might change the card a little bit, but then you would have maybe got 2 fights good.
Yeah, I think it did get great numbers on FS1, so there you go on that. It's probably the only good thing to watch on Fox Sports 1 nowadays, but I digress. I want to thank you for actually hanging with me and not getting upset that I may have not recorded our podcast last week, Sean. I know you do so much technical business with when it comes to this stuff. There was a miscommunication, I think, on our end. We promise this one is recorded. I have the little yellow, the little red light is going off, so everyone.
Wait a minute, was I supposed to hit?
Yeah, you were supposed to hit the button, right? You know.
Oh man.
See. Well, luckily
we may be up Friday.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, thank you guys for staying with us while you enjoyed wonderful New York City on your week off, where we actually did not record.
Yes.
And it wasn't too cold, which was insane.
No,
right?
it was great. I was out in a tank top playing in the snow. It was a good time.
Yeah, it's like 10 degrees outside as we're recording this right now. So glad you came in.
Yeah, no, we were there when it was 33, 34, and no wind, so it was nice.
No wind.
That's when I like it. No wind.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's what's the degrees in South Florida right now?
Well, actually, it's a crispy 54 tonight.
Well, tonight, at night, they're probably, 70, 75?
It'll be up to 75. We're hitting a hot front tomorrow. Hot front. We're going back up in... we got a hot front coming through.
Front? Oh, boy. All right, well... That's pretty much all I got. You got anything else you want to... of course, you can follow us on Twitter.
That's what I was going to say. Follow us, thefullmountmma.com. Check out all the articles posted up there. Follow me at SS Sports Talk. Brian at BeatCoyle11.
Yes, sir. Hopefully, by the time this goes up, our Aljamain Sterling conversation will be really poignant. Hopefully, no one else tests positive for another drug.
No other card to change.
Keep it clean, guys. Just USADA's going to show up at 5 a.m. at your house on a random Tuesday. Just don't take any drugs. It's the way to live. The way to do it.
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah, right. And then we'll see what happens. The next time we talk will be almost 2 weeks away from a Conor McGregor card.
Oh my goodness!
That is going.
The talk should be good by then.
Oh, of course it will be. Thank you, Sean, again. TheFullMountMMA.com for anything you need. Any of the biggest news that we will hit on that will be on the website. So thank you guys for that. For Sean, I'm Brian. We're out.
The TFM Live Podcast is brought to you by TheFullMountMMA.com. Check us out on Twitter at TheFullMount.